Hey everybody, welcome back to Backwards Angling. It's been a while since I've done a DIY project, so I'm going to bring one to you here. This is going to be a new hook setter that I've never done before. So I did a deep dive on Amazon the other day, just trying to get an idea of what they had for hook setters. I noticed a type of hook setter that I'd never seen before, and it's actually a hook setter that it's just a small piece of wire basically that latches shut. It fits on your line, in line from the rod down to the hook. When there's tension on the line, it allows that wire to snap open and yank the fish. So there are several things about that that are pretty interesting and cool, I think. One is that you don't need a rod holder type hook setter to actually snap the rod. It's a very simple device that can fit on your line. A lot of people in the comments from some of my other hook setters have asked, hey, does this work for trout? So I did an open water hook setter video back in April or so. I'll link that one down below. You could probably get it to work for trout, but it's still on the sensitivity side, it's not that sensitive. Because when we think about like stock trout, for instance, I think about this hit and run type of bite where they grab the bait for a split second, they jerk it, and as soon as they feel the resistance, they release it and get away. And I've had some really frustrating days bobber fishing for stock trout where the bobber goes under and you get ready to yank it, and by the time you yank it, they're already gone. And I've actually tried this hook setter out. I'm going to show you some footage at the end. And from what I can tell, it seems to be working pretty well. You'll see the footage, but I caught 4 fish. Of the 4 bites that I got where the hook setter went off, I caught all 4 of them. And there's a couple times where I just let the fish swim around with the bobber attached to it for a while. And that was an indication to me that that was actually working. I'm going to jump into it here. All you're going to need is just a few very simple things. It's going to essentially be a free build. I think it's going to take like 5 to 10 minutes. I've already made 2 or 3 of them. And I'm going to set my timer and just see how long it takes. Thanks for watching. Let's do this. All right, it's good to be back at the workbench after not doing a DIY project for a few months. Okay, so this is the device that we're working with here. Very simple. It's just a piece of wire. And you could use it just as a bottom rig where you just throw it out and let it lay on the bottom and you have your hook downstream. So the best way that I can think of to use this is to put a bobber just up above this hook setter, and the line is attached to the top of the hook setter. And you can see, so this wire, it doesn't want to stay in this shut position. It wants to snap like that. See that? What I've got here is I've got a snap swivel, and that snap swivel goes around this little hook here. And importantly, there is an O-ring here, and the line from the snap swivel goes through that O-ring, and that keeps it so that everything's kind of in a line here. So when it sets the hook, it's going to yank that fish straight back towards the bobber. If you don't have this O-ring and you just have the line just flapping down here, you don't have the line going through the O-ring, then it's just going to fly sideways. And you know, there's an off chance you could still get a good hook set on the fish, but it's not going to be pulling straight up. It's going to be flinging it out to the side. So this is our setup. We've got the bobber connected to the hook setter. Snap swivel is set, and I'm going to talk more about this later, but this is really important. You can adjust the sensitivity in a million different ways by bending this wire each way. So anyway, let's get to the demonstration here. So I've got my little fishy here, and this fish has got comes up, and he's trying to make a quick hit and run bite. So once he hits that thing, he's going to create tension in the system here between the bobber and the hook setter. And as soon as he pulls, there was so much jerk in that hook setter that it yanked the line out of my hand. Let's look at it one more time in as slow motion as I can get it. So he pulls, and boom, he moves like that. See? If it's shut, he's down here. As it opens, he gets pulled towards that hook setter. I can tell you there's a lot of force right here being applied. Plenty of force to set the hook into a fish's mouth. Let's continue on here and let's make one of our own here. So what we're going to need is the star of the show, this wire. It's about 15 inches long. This wire came from a landscaping flag, so I'm actually repurposing it. For people who have watched this channel for a long time, I made an iFish Pro DIY video, and in that I use landscaping flags as my indicator. So I've been trying to repurpose those and use this wire for other things. It seems to me like it's probably 14 gauge wire. Alright, so let's get right into it. I'm going to start my watch just to see how long this takes. first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this top coil that you see here. It's about 15 inches long, as you can see. So I'm going to go, there's 7.5 in the middle. I'm going to go like 6.5 or so. So about right there is where I want to make that. I'm just going to wrap this around. It's really stiff, and that's a good thing in this case, because that is what is going to give us all that tension that's going to build up when we set it. Okay, I think that's fine. So you can see how I have one end longer, so one end longer than the other. So this end is going to be where I form my hook. So I'm going to use some screws that I have here. I'm just going to bend that.
Okay, that's pretty good.
There we go, you can see what I've got. Now I want to make that hook. So you can see how I have these two screws set up here, so now I can hook that around this one, and I can try to bend it around this one. We'll see how good that works.
Oh yeah, it's working. Just anything you can do to get that turn.
There we go, it's getting pretty close. Oh yeah, it looks pretty good. You can see that I'm going to be able to come straight across. So now I just need to make some sort of a little loop here that my swivel's going to hang on. Put my snap swivel on here. I want to make sure that I'm coming straight across from the snap swivel straight across to the actual hook set. So I'm just going to test it. And you can see that it's not quite straight across. Well, you can see that this needs to come up for sure. I'm going to bend this a little bit more so that I can raise the level of that hook. Let's test out this hook and see. There's a ton of tension in it. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. You can see how I like it where I can adjust it, especially for these trout. I like it where I can adjust it where it's the swivel's just barely sitting on the hook, and that's about right. It's coming straight across in a straight line. A little tap, and you see how it shot off that swivel. All right, so that's good for me, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and close off this loop over here. So now we need to put an O-ring on. So I'm just gonna put that on there, and it goes down there. And then to keep it on, I'm just gonna take a little pinch of this wire. I'm just gonna wrap this wire on here. And this is just going to serve to keep that O-ring in place. Okay, so that's right there. Just going to bunch it up so it's just going to tighten in a tight bundle. Now the O-ring can't really move much. I think we're ready for this. Let me put some line on it. Before you put your hook on, you want to make sure that the line is through the O-ring. If it's not, then it's going to be annoying because you're going to have to cut your hook off and retie once you realize you've forgotten to do that, because I did that when I first was using this. So that line has to come through the O-ring, and then you attach your hook. Let's hook our little pet fishy up here. Okay, there he is. He comes up. So just pretend that we've got the bobber up here above this, and the fish pulls, boom. And that's what's going to happen to those poor little trout that are on the other end of this. They are going to get a yank. And one thing I want to note about this is when you're using a bobber, use a big one that's hard for the fish to even pull under at all. That way it's not going to give much. And so when that fish comes and pulls, that bobber is just going to be stuck on the surface, and they're going to try and pull it under hard, and that's going to increase the tension. If the bobber gives a little bit and sinks really easily, then the tension is not going to be there. So you want a really big, strong bobber up there that's going to float this and keep the fish from pulling it under. Okay, so we've seen the build. It's essentially free. It took me about 10 minutes while I was explaining it, so 10 minutes or so, and you've got your hook setter. I'm not going to say it's the be-all end-all for trout hook setters that's going to solve all your problems with soft, finicky biting trout. I'm still testing it. I'm still trying to figure out how to best to dial it in and how best to use this thing. I will say it's not dummy proof. You have to make those fine tuning adjustments. You have to have some pliers there with you so you can make it more sensitive or less sensitive, and adjust to what you're seeing. Are the fish setting it off easily? If so, you know, stick with it. If they're not setting it off enough, you have to make those fine-tune adjustments, but you don't want to get it so sensitive that it sets off as soon as you cast it. So without further ado, I'm going to show you what happened when I tested this out at a trout pond. I was out there 3 or 4 days ago, and I was pleasantly surprised by how this worked. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the build. It's now time to watch the footage of me catching trout with this hook setter. Thanks for watching. I will meet you out at the trout pond. See ya. All right, we're going to the crawlers, but we are doing something special here. Doing a little experiment here on backwards angling with a new type of hook setter. If it works, I will demonstrate how to make it at my workbench after this. If it doesn't, then we'll just forget about it. I'm gonna set it super sensitive, just like that. You can see I barely got it set on there. Any little pull, boom, it's gonna pull loose. So it should set the hook on them. So let's see if we can get anything to bite first. See if we get a bite. I got it set real nice and sensitive. Oh, I got a bite, got a bite. Did he set it off? Didn't take long to get a bite. He should have set it off. If he didn't set it off, we'll make it more sensitive. Okay, he didn't set it off. So we need to go super sensitive. Oh, there it's set on me. It set just as I was pulling it in. So let's just set it a little bit more sensitive. There. Shouldn't take hardly anything to get that to go. Okay. Just gonna leave it right there. And then I'm gonna get my fly rod going. Oh, there was a bite. There was a bite. Let's see if we hook him. He's pulling on it. He might be hooked. I think he's hooked. I think he's hooked. I think he's hooked. Yep, we got him. We got him on the hook setter. Hook setter worked. We got him. Oh my gosh. Look at that. I think the hook setter did the job there. I never set the hook. I just let him get the hook set on him. Okay, there's how we got it. Just real sensitive. Any little downward pull should release that hook setter. Let's go back out after him. That was exciting. I think we got him on the hook setter. Okay, I didn't have to set the hook. He actually jumped out of the water with the bobber still attached to him. Oh, so much easier to cast now that we've got some calmer conditions. Oh, he's hitting it. I'm just gonna let him eat it. I'm not even gonna mess with that rod. I want him to see if he's hooked. I think he's hooked now. I think he's hooked. I think he's hooked. I think he's hooked. Yep, he's hooked. He's hooked. We got one. This hook setter's working. My goodness. That's awesome. Look, see the hook setter set. Hook setter opened up and set that hook on him. I didn't even have to do anything. It's worked on 2 fish in a row. Got it set real sensitive, as you can see. It's really powerful. Almost put a few hooks in my hand while I was making it. I'm never able to do that with these fish. I'm never able to just let them take it. Usually I've got to be there and set that hook on them. There's the bobber. I'll need it. Oop, I got him. I think I got him. I think I got him. I got him. The third hook setter fish. Can we agree that it's working? I'm not having to set the hook on any of these. It's pretty amazing. Do you want any trout? Do you want any trout?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Good luck. Yep, got him. I'm on the hook setter. All right. So we just got done. Caught about, I don't know, 8 to 10 trout maybe. Caught them on flies, caught them on Castmaster artificials. I also caught 3 or 4 on a new hook setter I've been kind of experimenting with. I haven't been able to find bitey fish that are, where I can actually, I've caught a few fish on it, but I haven't been able to get into a bite where they're biting consistently so I can test it out and adjust the sensitivity and actually really confirm that it's working. But today I really believe I caught those fish on that hook setter because I didn't have to go over and set the hook. My bobber was just swimming around in all directions and I knew I had them. And the reason that I knew that the hook setter had set the hook was because I've been fishing down there at that trout pond with my kids with worms. And man, we have a heck of a time trying to get them on the hook. They'll bite it and then they'll leave, and they'll bite it and then they'll leave. And it's just so hard to get them actually on the hook. It's not dummy proof. You need to adjust the sensitivity. You need to have it sensitive enough that those trout, as soon as they give it a jerk, it's gonna plant that hook in their lip. Not so sensitive that it goes off when you cast. So you kind of gotta play with it a little bit. But that being said, a lot of people have asked me about hook setters for trout, and this might be the best option that I've seen so far. You know, it's worth playing with. I'm not gonna sit there and say that it's the magic be all end all, but what you just saw right there, I never would have been able to do that if I didn't have that hook setter on there. I never would have been able to catch those trout. They would have hit the bobber and they would have left by the time I got over to them. I'm gonna go to work, and the next you're gonna see of me, I'm gonna be at my workbench, and I am gonna show you how to make this hook setter on your own in case you wanna try it. Okay? I'll see you in a second.